Hello, wildlings. I'm your Creepsmith, and you found my Fear Forge. Lucky you. Today's shadowy scare, The Copycats, by Glitchyguy. Nobody remembers when they appeared. Some think they've been here since the beginning of time and space, or at least less grandly, since the first human existed. Others think they came into their existence more recently. I personally don't care where they came from or how they got here. I only really care about keeping myself alive. These copycats, that's what we call them. Most of the time, they look almost human, trying to copy the appearances of their last victims. I say almost because some of them appear as tall as streetlights, or have big bulging eyes and smiles with far too many teeth. Some of them can speak to sort of as a way to lure us out. In reality, most of them aren't really talking, just reusing sounds that they hear before their victims die. Their mouths never move when they speak, and they never move any part of them an inch when they do so. But those who can speak, they don't sound human. They speak in tongues with deep voices that sound gentle, masking their violent natures, calling out for their victims, asking them to accept their fates, to finally accept death and come to them, our reapers. They like to live in dark spaces, areas where you can't tell if they're human or not. Basements, alleyways, anywhere within a shadow to conceal what they look like. The feds say to keep every corner of your house, or in my case apartment, brightly lit, and to make sure all the doors and windows are locked. Because once they get in, anyone inside never gets back out. I was sure that my apartment was safe, that I could live there forever. But recently, people have been running low on food. They have to risk going outside, opening their doors, letting the monsters in, forced to run through the masses of inhuman faces that flood the streets, growing as restless as we are. I see some of the braver people sometimes out my window. See them running through the streets only to be devoured by the copycats who fight over the scraps of bodies. It's been weeks now. I'm almost out of food. I'm pretty sure the other people in my apartment building have died, either of starvation or by running into these things. I've noticed that the lights have been flickering in the apartments and that the rent forms have stopped coming in. I don't know if anyone else is alive. I don't know how long I'm going to last in this hell. Some people might say that I'm the lucky one surviving this long. Personally, I think it's hell. Watching as people I love die, as the world around me dies, as this new race of monsters claws its way to the top of the food chain, wiping us out in the process. I'm keeping a journal, in case I'm not the only one, in case there are others out there who somehow managed to survive against these monsters. In case someone finds me, dead or alive. Day 1. I can't do anything but keep the doors locked and keep my neighbor's shotgun at my side. Although I doubt the gun will do anything against them. From what I remember from the news, the military used everything up to and including tanks and planes against them, barely making a dent in the copycat numbers before being consumed by the freaks. I managed to get into a few apartments and snag some more food, but I was almost caught by one of those things that got in during the food runs. Yeah, they know I'm here now. Day 2. I saw one of my neighbors today, or I guess I saw whatever saw them last. I remember she was a nice old woman. Couldn't be bothered to remember her name, with kind, caring eyes, and she always helped the other tenants with groceries. You know, that kind of neighbor who would show up to your door when you first move in with a plate of cookies in hand. But now she was different. Forced to become one of the worst disguises I've ever seen a copycat use. When I saw her, she stood around 7-8 feet tall. She was forced to crouch, not to touch the ceiling, and her face was rounded, wider than it should have been. Her smiling mouth was filled with huge teeth, more than 20 of them stretching ear to ear, and one of her eyes was impossibly big compared to the other. I ran the other way when I saw her, or I guess it, and I quickly closed the door in the random apartment behind me. Didn't have time to lock the door, could only hold it shut and pray that I was strong enough to survive when this thing kept ramming into it. Day 3. I think it's given up now, but I can still hear it shuffling around outside. I'm gonna wait another day before I try and go back out. Day 4. It was waiting. Wasn't moving, wasn't breathing. It was just standing there, waiting for the door to open. How the hell does something stay alive that long without breathing? Over 24 hours without a single breath of air. I guess I should count myself lucky I was able to shut the door again. Day 5. It's angry now. I can hear it screaming. It sounds like a human voice mixed with the sound of a guitar getting kicked down the stairs. It's a loud wail with pauses every 1 or 2 seconds. I managed to hide in the bathroom before I heard the sound of shattering wood. But it's in the apartment now. Day 6. I managed to sneak out the window. Luckily, I was high enough to be out of reach from the flood of copycats down on the street. I almost fell several times, but I did make it back to my apartment without dying. Yay. Day 7. The food has started to rot. I was trying to scavenge, trying to sneak around the hidden in the hallway, and found a couple of cans of food. Nothing special, just some loosely screwed shut jars of beans, couple tomatoes, maybe 3 or 4 cans of peaches. Was utterly fueled by hunger, so I opened one and was immediately hit by the smell. It was horrible, like the smell of an egg after being microwaved until it was burnt. I don't know how long I can keep this up. Day 8. I'm all out of food now. The hallways aren't safe. It's not like I'd risk going out through the window again. So all I can do now is wait to die. Either from the monsters themselves or from starvation. Day 9. Since I'm probably gonna die here, I think it might be helpful to make a list of as many copycats as I can, how they look, how they act, things like that, in case anyone else needs to know. When in doubt, categorize. First off are the hidden. If you remember the neighbor that I ran into earlier, they're like that. Humanoid figures, barely, that hide in the shadows to distract from their appearance, imitating loud noises to draw out those it's hunting. They're usually extremely disfigured. Most of them have a permanent smile on their face, and they stand anywhere from 6 feet tall all the way up to 10 feet. They can put themselves into a sort of induced hibernation of sorts where their bodies cease any and all activity. This can last for undeterminate amounts of time, but the longest I've actually seen was an entire day. I think they do this to trick their prey out of hiding as well. Next are the mutterers, or the muttering. They look almost the same as the hidden, slightly smaller usually. These ones only grow to around 7 feet, and that's usually as big as they get. They have noticeably less disfiguration, especially around the mouth. They don't hide in the shadows quite as much as hiddens do. Instead, they just stand there, motionless, and they constantly repeat the words of their victims and wait for someone to see them. If you see something standing and talking like this and you can't tell if it's a person or not, listen carefully to what they're saying. Most of the time, muttering's voice will change depending on what it's saying or screaming. Common things that they say are, "Help me," "Please don't hurt me," "Take me instead," or they'll just stand there and scream, usually for about half an hour or so. The third kind are what I like to call stalkers. These are some of the most dangerous and visually unique of the copycats. They only grow to 6 feet tall, and they can go weeks without eating. Their usual tactic is to hide behind a door or in a concealed space, completely still and motionless, and then they strike the moment the door opens or someone enters their space. They have small round eyes on the sides of their heads, leaving room on the front of their bodies for a very large mouth that stretches from the top of their head to the stump at the other end of their torso. They don't have legs. They walk around on their hands when they need to. They don't even look vaguely human. Their skin looks like a skinned tomato, red and slimy. If you think you might be trapped by a stalker, I recommend finding anything long and sharp. It might take a few tries, but if you stab through the door, you'll eventually hear it shriek, and they normally run away after that. I'm getting tired. I might write some more in the morning. Day 10. One of them got in again. I think it crawled in from the window. I haven't seen anything like this one. It's tall. It has to crawl to be able to fit into the apartment. It's much bigger than the one disguised as my neighbor. It's talking, too. Not random snippets or sentences, but full-fledged contextual statements. It's actually speaking to me. Its skin is a dull gray and its face is like a skull. It's wearing what looks to be an old black curtain around it. I heard about these in the earlier days. It was mostly rumors, short stories written about them. I thought they were fake, publicity stunts by people trying to get famous, but this is real. This behemoth monster staring at me right in the face. I can just barely make out some of the words when it whispers. Why do you wait here? Why do you try and survive knowing that we are around every corner when you know that you are the only one left, the one we have been watching for so long? What is it that fuels you? Is it hope? Fear? Is it something else? Some primal instinct? An urge to survive when you know there is nothing you can do to stop us, all of us, from finding a way out of this hell? You were never going to survive. We have been watching you all this time, studying, copying you, learning from your actions. We have been keeping track of every move, sending one of our own to occasionally remind you of the hell you are in. You will never escape this. You will never survive this. Because eventually, when we run out of things to study about you, when we run out of things to copy, ways to scare, to traumatize you, we will kill you. There is nothing stopping us from tearing this apartment to the ground. Nothing stopping us from ripping through every hallway and room before finally finding and devouring you, body, mind, and soul. This is your prison. These halls are your cell, and we are your captors. Never forget that at any moment, any split second, we could destroy you the instant you stop being of interest to us. So every second, you had better be moving, because the second you stop is the second that the thoughts you engrave in that little book you so desperately scribble in stop. And with those words, it left. It didn't attack me, it didn't kill me. It crawled, squeezing its bulk right back out of the window. I don't know how much time I have left, but I guess I should focus less on writing all this down and more about finding how to get out of here. Yeah, there's always got to be that one person or villain or monster that has to let you know who's really in charge. Yeah, I don't have any problem with authority at all. Anyway, stay scary, wildlings, and make the most of your nights.